There is a specific kind of sadness that can settle over a person, a heavy, grey feeling that Ishmael, the narrator of Moby Dick, calls the damp, drizzly November of the soul. He doesn't go to sea because he wants adventure or wealth. He goes because he feels a sudden, inexplicable urge to escape the crushing weight of his own melancholy. He needs to get away from the land, from the predictable movements of society, and move toward the vast, chaotic openness of the ocean. This journey begins in New Bedford, a bustling whaling port where Ishmael finds himself staying at the Spouter Inn. It is here that he meets Queequeg, a harpooner from a distant Pacific island. When they first meet, Ishmael is struck by Queequeg's appearance. His skin is covered in intricate tattoos, and he carries a club that looks like a weapon. To a man of the 19th century, Queequeg looks like a savage, and Ishmael initially feels a sense of fear and prejudice. But as the night progresses, those fears melt away. Queequeg is actually a man of great dignity, skill, and kindness. The two men form a bond that transcends their different cultures and religions, becoming what Ishmael calls bosom friends. This friendship is one of the most grounding elements of the book, a moment of genuine human connection in a world that often feels indifferent or hostile. Soon, Ishmael and Queequeg travel to Nantucket to sign onto a ship called the Pequod. The Pequod is a vessel that carries a microcosm of the world. Its crew is made up of men from every corner of the globe, brought together by the singular, brutal purpose of whaling. As they depart, we are introduced to the man who truly commands the destiny of the ship, Captain Ahab. Ahab is a figure of terrifying intensity. He is missing a leg, which has been replaced by a prosthetic made of polished whalebone. From the moment he appears on deck, it is clear that he is not interested in the commercial success of the voyage. He doesn't care about the oil or the profit. He is hunting a specific whale, a massive white sperm whale known as Moby Dick, which had previously taken his leg. For Ahab, the whale isn't just an animal. It is a personification of everything that is cruel, inscrutable, and malicious in the universe. To cement this obsession, Ahab nails a gold doubloon to the ship's mast, promising it to the first man who sights the white whale. He turns a commercial mission into a personal vendetta, and as the Pequod sails deeper into the Pacific, his madness begins to pull the crew along with him. The voyage is not just a series of chases, it is a grueling, rhythmic existence defined by the brutal realities of life at sea. We see the intense social rituals of the crew, the terrifying sight of sharks circling the boats, and the massive, bloody labor of cutting in the blubber. Throughout this, the tension between Ahab and his first mate, Starbuck, serves as the moral heartbeat of the ship. Starbuck is a pragmatic, religious man who sees whaling as a job and a way to provide for a family. He recognizes that Ahab's quest is madness and tries time and again to steer the captain back toward reason. But Ahab's charisma is magnetic and his will is iron. He begins to treat the voyage as a religious crusade, isolating himself from the crew and using the guise of the hunt to mask his descent into monomania. As the Pequod travels, it encounters other ships on the ocean. In the book, these encounters are called gams. These meetings serve as a way for the sailors to exchange news, but they also act as omens. Some ships are full of life and purpose, while others are broken, damaged, or doomed, subtly foreshadowing the fate that awaits the Pequod. Eventually, the moment arrives. Moby Dick is sighted. The final confrontation unfolds over 3 days of escalating, apocalyptic violence. On the first day, the hunt is chaotic, and the whale strikes Ahab's boat, throwing him into the sea, though he survives. On the second day, the whale's power becomes even more apparent. It is not just a large animal, it is a force of nature that seems to possess an almost supernatural intelligence. The crew is exhausted, the boats are battered, and the sense of impending doom is palpable. On the third day, the confrontation reaches its breaking point. Moby Dick does not just fight the boats, he turns his fury on the Pequod itself. The whale strikes the ship, causing it to founder and begin its slow, inevitable descent into the deep. In a final, desperate act of defiance, Ahab hurls his harpoon at the whale, but the line, attached to the harpoon, recoils and wraps around Ahab's neck, dragging him down into the dark, churning waters along with his obsession. The Pequod is pulled into a massive, all-consuming vortex, and the ship sinks, taking the entire crew with it. In the end, only Ishmael is left. He survives by clinging to a coffin that Queequeg had prepared for himself earlier in the voyage. It is a strange, poetic irony. The object meant for death becomes the very thing that keeps Ishmael alive. He floats alone in the vastness of the Pacific until he is rescued by the Rachel, a ship that was out searching for its own lost crew. Ishmael is left to tell the story of the Pequod, the only witness to the destruction caused by Ahab's singular, devastating focus. When we look back at the story, it's easy to get lost in the sheer scale of the plot, but the real power of the book lies in what Moby Dick represents. The whale is a blank canvas. To Ahab, it is the embodiment of evil and a wall that stands between man and the truth of the universe. To Starbuck, it is just a source of oil and profit. To Ishmael, it is a mystery that can never be fully solved. This ambiguity is central to the book's lasting impact. The whale is not just a creature, it is the sublime, that terrifying intersection where human awe meets the overwhelming indifferent power of nature. There is also the concept of whiteness that Melville explores in a way that is deeply unsettling. He spends significant time discussing the color white, not as a symbol of purity or innocence, but as a terrifying void. To him, whiteness can represent a lack of meaning, a blankness that suggests the universe might be empty, indifferent, or even hostile to human understanding. When Ahab stares into the white expanse of the whale, he is staring into the face of a universe that doesn't care about his suffering or his vengeance. This brings us to the tension between fate and free will. Throughout the voyage, there is a sense that the crew is being pulled toward a predetermined end. Ahab seems to believe in a form of predestination, as if he is a puppet being moved by the very forces he is trying to strike down. Yet, characters like Starbuck represent the human struggle for agency, the attempt to act with reason and morality even when the world seems to be spiraling out of control. The tragedy of the Pequod is that Ahab's attempt to exert his will against the universe ultimately results in the total destruction of everything he was supposed to lead. The book is also a study in social hierarchy. The ship is a rigid, disciplined structure where every man has a specific role, from the captain to the cook. This hierarchy is meant to provide order against the chaos of the ocean, but as Ahab's madness grows, that order collapses. The ship becomes a reflection of a fractured society, where a single person's obsession can override the collective survival of the group. Ultimately, Moby Dick is a story about the limits of human knowledge. We see men trying to categorize the whale, to study it, to hunt it, and to understand it. But the ocean remains ungraspable. The more they try to master it, the more it slips through their fingers. Ishmael survives not because he conquered the sea, but because he learned how to endure it. He moves from a man trying to escape his own internal darkness to a man who has looked into the heart of a cosmic darkness and lived to tell the tale. It is a heavy, complex, and deeply human story about the struggle to find meaning in a world that often offers none.